So the first thing that happened when I started writing, I was very young, and I went to this writing group, which I would recommend to anybody, because you write and then other people criticize you. Oh, wait a minute, we call that feedback. Okay, but it's painful. It's really painful. Anyway, you get the feeling of what works and what doesn't work. And I went to this one session for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, Frank? And I loved every minute of it. Well, I started writing the book that I just got published when I was about 30, and I'm now going to be 81 in July. So look at how long that was running around in my head. But the guy that I was taking the class with thought that the book was pretty sensational. So he connected me with this woman who was an agent. And I started writing screenplays. And she actually sent one for MASH out to California. She sent me to New York, to the David Susskind agency. And I ended up getting the offer of a job to write for television. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Well, let me tell you, my husband had just lost his job. My daughter was just going to college, and they only wanted to pay me $15,000 a year. I had no backers, so I said, gee, sorry, I can't do this. And now I think about what could have happened to us if I had been able to find somebody to fund me, you know, while I started to do this. And then somebody told me later, and you're going to fall off the chair when I tell you this, they think that it was Sex in the City that they wanted me to write for. Well, that's not exactly my style. So I got pretty discouraged, and then I started writing for things for work, and I got a short story published for The Villager. And then I got several magazine articles that were related to the business that I was in. And I was just going along, but I was always writing, but nothing was happening. I worked for 45 years as an HR person. And in 2017, I retired. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do. The first thing I did was to resurrect this children's book that I had written, and I had never been able to find anybody who would do the sketches for me. Interestingly enough, my daughter, right here, oldest daughter, got married, and I went on Facebook, and her mother-in-law was doing these drawings, and I called her up and I said, would you like to do the drawings for my children's book? And she said yes, and that's how we got the drawings for this book. She didn't know how to do anything on a computer. Everything was done with pencil sketches, and then she got these crayons and she was coloring it in, but it didn't work for the printer. Now this was what you call self-publishing down and dirty, because I didn't have anybody helping me and I didn't know what I was doing. I wrote the book, I broke it up into pages, she provided me with a sketch for each of the pages that I had, and we put the book together with her sketches, but it didn't work for the printer. My girlfriend's daughter used to work for Prentice Hall Publishing Company, and I called her up, and I said, Chrissy, I have this children's book, and I don't know how to get it published, and I don't know how to put it together. Can you do that for me? Oh, sure, she said. So I paid her to do that. She actually went into Adobe Photoshop and did every single drawing over, because she had to erase all of those pencil lines, and she had to make it possible for the printer to actually use those sketches. So she did a tremendous amount of work for me. And she put that book together, and I have it up on Etsy, and it's for sale on Etsy. I never got it on Amazon, which I should get off my dead ass, shouldn't I? And get it on Amazon, but I never did. So then I said, the next thing I'm going to do is write this novel that I've been working on for 30 years. And I have this wonderful book club of people. One of the members is sitting right here in front of me. And I gave them all the first draft. And I want to tell you, they were all my friends, but they weren't so kind. And,
We were honest.
they actually told me the truth.
Yeah.
So then I looked at all the things that they said, and I said, you know what? They're the reader. I have to pay attention to them. And so I made changes according to the things that they said. But then I couldn't find anybody to publish it. And I really wanted to go traditional publishing. I couldn't get anybody to read it. The agent I had years ago had died. Well, a lot of good she did me, right? And I couldn't find anybody. So I was at this birthday party for my aunt who turned 100. And I'm sitting there and I get this little idea rolling around in my brain. Talk to your cousin Frank. He lives in California. He's a retired eye surgeon. He must know somebody out there in publishing. So I went to Frank and I said, do you know anybody in publishing? And he said, oh, I'm a Rotarian. Oh, glory be, there we go. Talk about networking. Yeah, there's somebody in my Rotary Club that's a publisher. I said, well, I have a book that I wrote. I would like to send it to you, and if you think it's got any value, would you pass it along to your publisher friend? And he said yes. Well, it only took a couple of days, and she called me up and she said, I really want to publish this. Yes, she self-publishes. Yes, I had to pay her money. But I want to tell you, I'm so happy working with her, I can't even begin to tell you. So contrary to what a lot of people experience, she had an editor. He edited my book. She told me that my book was one of the few books that she ever had that required very little editing. I only want to say that I edited it probably about 16 times myself, you know. And every time I read it again, I found another something or other. But we got through the editing process. It got published. It's up on Amazon. And this is what that book looks like. We had a little dispute over the cover. I brought it out in two versions. One is the soft cover and one is the hard cover, because I really am a reader, and I just think that there are a lot of people that like to have a hardcover book in hand. Now, that may be true or not, but I'm really glad I had the hardcover done. And so she gave me a cover, which was my idea. Talk about getting the cover, Amber. I thought of a map, you know, because it's an immigration story about a young woman who comes to the United States in the 1890s. So it's a historical fiction. And I thought that would be interesting. And then her art department gave me the cover, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't use this cover. She wasn't too happy with me. She said, well, maybe you should find somebody to do a cover for you. I said, okay. So I called up Chrissy, who did my children's book, and I said, Chrissy, would you like to do the cover for my book? And she said, I would love to, but I have to read it first. I said, well, that makes a lot of sense. You can pass this around and people can take a look at the way they come out. So,
We've read them.
so Chrissy read the book, and she called me. I gave her the book on a Thursday in Dropbox, and on Monday she called me and she said, you don't know what you did to me this weekend. I said, what do you mean? She said, I didn't eat all day Sunday. I started reading your book in the morning and I never ate. I just kept reading till I finished it. And then she came up with this cover. Isn't that a fabulous cover?
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best covers I've ever seen. It's also something which is called, the printer told me, is called soft touch, which I never knew existed, because it feels almost like a velvety surface on it. So I worked with her, I got it published, it's up on Amazon, and now she's giving me advice on marketing, and I'm doing all the work. And yes, it's costing me money, but I'm having a great time. And as it turned out, she asked me to edit for her, so now I'm editing books. So you never really know what's going to happen to you. Are there questions anybody may have?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Yes.
I enjoyed your reading your book.
Oh, thank you so much. Anybody else have a comment?
I read it too.
You read it too? Oh, that's great.
I think it's great.
Well, I'm really happy about that. It's up on Amazon. I have 27 5-star reviews. I'm really thrilled to death. It's not a lot of reviews. It's not a lot of people that put their comments up, but I'm happy with it. And it's just a lifelong achievement for me, and I'm really happy to do it. Now, a lot of people want to do factual books. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
I figured that was going to be the case. So, I brought this along, although this does talk about novels. And I just wanted to have this for you people to look at in case you were interested. There's tons of books out there that'll tell you how to go through the process of getting your stuff together. And I think on a factual book, and Vince, you're going to correct me on this, I'm sure, right? Because your books are factual, aren't they?
Yes, they cut
Okay.
across fiction and nonfiction.
Okay, so I think that there's a really good market for certain types of factual books because people like to know things and they like to get some guidance on how to do this and how to do that.
When is the next one coming in?
That's what I was gonna say. Tell her she's working on the second. Tell her.
Oh, I am. I'm working on the sequel. I have 10 chapters done. The publisher said to me, you better get your butt moving and get that sequel done because I think this book is really good. So she liked the book right away. And I will tell you that if you have any concerns about getting started, I think about what Walt Disney said. If you want to make something happen, I'm not quoting him exactly. If you want to make something happen and get it started, stop talking and just do it. And I think that that's something that you have to follow. Oh, by the way, unlike Amber, my characters have their own lives. I don't do any outlines. I know in my head where I'm going. And when I sit down to write, sometimes the character does something I had no idea they were going to do. So I think it's interesting.
You know, I always go back to the movie, I Remember Mother.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Excellent. Trina would go and write, and finally when she learned how to get the right thing, write about something you've experienced, your own life.
That's the same thing with Little Women.
Right, same thing with Little Women. And I must tell you, I just looked at your book for the little baby book. We just had our 7th great grandchild.
Oh, congratulations.
2 months
He's
old.
older than me.
And I read it, and I said, you know, I'm going to buy that book for Esther, because there is truth in that book because I've experienced it with her.
Oh, yeah,
You
the
did a good job on
difference.
that book.
The difference about that book and the other books on this topic about having a new baby come into the house is that this book is written from the voice of the child.
Yes.
So the baby comes home and the child says to his mother, "Oh, Mommy, is that our new baby? I'm so sorry. He's not pretty at all. You must be so sad." You know, and then one of my favorite pages in the book says, "I used to get 2 cookies, one for my right hand and one for my left hand. Now I get 2 cookies, one for me and one for my brother." In the end, they love each other. But, you know, this is what happens because children feel like they're pushed aside when the next child comes.
Looking at the
But
book,
thank you for
I
that.
enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.